The land of Terra is not one that inspires hope. It's grim, it's dark, you might even call it grim dark. It is a land plagued by sickness and war. From those who seek to tear apart families to provide stability to their country, to those who drive out the sick for the crime of having a terminal disease. In a world like Terra, there are few who can hold on to hope. Theresa, Babel, Rhodes Island. They are all entities who fundamentally hope for a better world and take the necessary actions to arrive at that place. On a more metaphysical level, all of those entities and more have placed their hope onto the shoulders of Amiya and the Doctor, that pair who work tirelessly for a better world. What I'm trying to say is, hope is perhaps the biggest theme of this chapter, but so too is despair. Nihilism is not necessarily a rejection of hope, though the two are often concepts that clash, especially when it comes to differing ideals of characters. Which is why Priestess is the ultimate denial of the hope Rhodes Island represents, although I'm getting a little ahead of myself with discussing her. Regardless, Priestess's awakening heralds the end, and as such her mentioning here heralds the beginning of this dissociative recombination. The lore of dissociative recombination is dense. Like a really dense tree that you cut down and turn into lore books. About chapter 15. Terrible analogies aside, effectively there is just one thing you need to understand this event. The Londinium crisis. Act 2 feeds directly into Act 3. Who could have seen that coming? So I'm gonna run through what we need from Act 2, which honestly isn't much, but you know I will be simplifying for the sake of time. Just watch the Absolved will be the Seeker video for basically all you need. Maybe the See You Soon video too. But enough shameless plugging. The Sorkas have taken control of Londinium and the Victorians want their capital back. This leads to a war between the two factions. Pretty self-explanatory. However, Rhodes Island gets involved in the conflict for two reasons. One is to help Siege, rightful heir to the Victorian throne, defend their homeland. And two, to carry out the will of Babel and prevent the destruction of the Sorkas. During the conflict they face many strong opponents, but inevitably the conflict comes down to one between Amiya and a reborn Theresa. Using the first Originium, Theresa enters the world within Originium, the assimilated universe. Yes, in case you didn't know, Originium is basically a really fancy version of file zipping. Everything it consumes becomes data and is stored within the assimilated universe. Theresa used the first Originium to free the souls of the Sorkas trapped within Originium. Amiya would battle Theresa in this universe to determine if the Dream of Babel, a hope for a better world where all can be equal and free of Originium, is able to survive in a world like Terra. Of course, Theresa never had any doubt that the one she placed her hope in would lose, and as such Amiya overcame the trial of Theresa. Unfortunately, their battle stirred the will behind Originium, and Rhodes Island, having accomplished their goal, would flee the assimilated universe before Priestess awoke. Although the largest battle of the war was won, the city of Londinium had yet to be taken, which leads us to where we are now. The war for the heart of Victoria rages on. The Exemplars, backed by the ducal forces, have driven the Sorkas back to the royal palace. Nez Salem will soon fall, and once more Victorians will control Londinium. During the chaos, a young infected girl, Hyoda, roams the battlefield, aiding the wounded and the lost. After rescuing a Victorian soldier at the site of a warship's destruction, she heads for Londinium. Within the city, she would rescue a Sorkas child and take them to one of the safe zones. Unfortunately, the Duke's soldiers would execute all the Sorkas they found within these zones. Thankfully, other children Hyoda had saved would hide the Sorkas child from the soldiers. So Hyoda takes the child to Reunion, who would take in all those who face oppression. Reunion offers to take Hyoda in too, but she still believes she has work left to do in Victoria. Despite her rapidly deteriorating health, Hyoda continues to help those in need until eventually it becomes too much for her. She collapses on the battlefield, her strength spent. As her body disintegrates, a hand reaches down to grab her own. On the battlefield not too far from there, Amiya hears the sound of Hyoda shattering. A sound that accompanies the end of all infected, and one Amiya has grown tired of hearing upon this battlefield. Despite the sorrow she's feeling, Amiya is determined to put a stop to this war. She, Calced, Ascalon, and the Doctor enter the palace to confront the Aura Former himself, but are too late to prevent his plans. Following in Theresa's footsteps, Theresis has entered the assimilated universe. The Tower of Babel created by Theresa still stands, and Theresis climbs it to confront the other creator of Originium. He will secure the future of the Sorkas with his own blade. For the first time in his long life, Theresis feels a shiver run down his back. A will greater than his own attempts to force him to submit. little does Priestess know, Theresis is him. Regardless of whether Priestess is a god or his creator, he will rebel against his fate. Although awaiting him atop the tower is not Priestess, but the memory of Ascalon. Unfortunately for Priestess, Theresis strikes down this fake, severing its connection to the will of Priestess. Theresis has struck a blow against his creator and claims the first Originium for the Sorkaz, severing Priestess's control over it. The tower forged by Theresa collapses, and Theresis plunges into the Originium Sea. Only now, after striking this blow to Priestess, does she turn her attention to him in full. The Originium Sea parts, and Theresis is finally granted an audience with Priestess. Theresis is the first denizen of Terra that Priestess laid her eyes on. Theresis cuts through the illusions of Originium she places in front of him, and the strongest aura former of today faces off with the strongest aura former in history. Not even one of its creators can reclaim the first Originium from the Sorkaz now. Priestess introduces herself in a polite manner, but Theresis cares little for the gesture. Priestess believes that no matter what, the Sorkaz will never overcome Originium, but Theresis and Theresa have already shown that this is false. Recognizing her weakness of no longer having a physical body, Theresis slashes at Priestess over and over again, shattering the stage she has built for them. Priestess offers Theresis salvation within Originium, but Theresis only wishes to pass judgment on this god. Even as his body is overcome by Originium, he strikes down Priestess. Laterano's Law, the Preserver in Columbia, even the Witch King in the Void Between Worlds, feels the reverberations of his actions. Priestess returns to her slumber once again, and the triumphant warrior returns to Londinium with his prize. Just as she succumbs to sleep once more though, Priestess reaches out her hand to a dying infected. While Theresis battled for the future of the Sorkaz, Manfred stood alone against the combined onslaught of Amia, Monster, and Ascalon. Realizing that Theresis has traveled to the assimilated universe, the trio moved to strike down Manfred, only for Theresis to return just in time to defend him. His time within Originium having changed him, it is only a matter of time till he falls. Having succeeded in throwing off the yoke of oppression set upon the Sorkaz, his continued survival is a miracle, one that he intends to use to strike down the Doctor. The first Originium assimilates Amia's arts as she attempts to stop him, and fueled by the despair they felt when Amia was overtaken by Originium, the Doctor marches towards Theresis, determined to put an end to this Originium weapon. Raising his sword for the last time, the two who murdered Theresa are reunited. Refusing to allow their kind to ever again control the fate of the Sorkaz, Theresis swings his blade. With their allies' protection, the Doctor temporarily overcomes Theresis' control of Originium, giving Ascalon a window to attack. Her blade pierces the heart of her master. Blood does not flow from the wound, only shattered crystals emerge. The last of his strength spent, Theresis collapses onto the throne beneath the palace. The first Originium shall go with the Sorkaz to Kazdel, and their fallen leader will remain in Londinium. Theresis takes one last moment to mock the Doctor for not knowing their part in the creation of Originium before sending them away. They are not worthy to witness his death. Beneath the Palace of Victoria, a lone Sorkaz meets his end. Having bought Terra respite from Priestess, his only regret is not striking down the Doctor. Before his consciousness fades away, he hears her voice one last time. The two Sorkaz heroes exchange their farewells before only darkness is left. Awakening aboard a strange vessel, Hilda finds herself confronted by a strange life form. Somehow having survived certain death, she assumes she has reached heaven. She confuses the machine that appeared before her as a god of some kind. The machine analyzes her brain frequency and within moments begins to speak fluent Terran. Introducing itself as Ray Distorter, it decides to show her the location she has found herself in. Outside of this vessel, a destroyed planet floats in front of her. Not that she has the words to describe what lies before her eyes. This is the space equivalent of giving a medieval peasant some Sour Patch Kids and a white monster. Her mind simply cannot comprehend what she's seeing. 3 years have passed since the war in Londinium, so it's time for some catch up and setup. Alana and Wormy of To the Grinning Valley fame are aiding in the repair and upgrade works aboard Rhodes Island. Wormy will soon be travelling back to Rimbilliton with Savage and Ray to take up residence in the local Rhodes Island office. The Ursus girls too prepare for their return to their homeland, although I must say willingly going to Ursus is certainly a decision of all time. Dornor will be travelling with them as a guardian, although at this point all of the girls should be adults. I'm personally expecting a Zima altar to be the outcome of this little venture. Leto also wants to go bully her old man in Kerag, so they might also appear in the next Kerag event. Falnik meanwhile prepares for a trip to Victoria. She takes some time to discuss her plans with Calcit before setting off. Not only will she be dealing with the Dukes, she'll also have to make some time to visit Reed. Savage too gets some screen time, spending some alone time with the Doctor. Lava and Hibiscus also get some sisterly bonding in. Nian has already forced Nudrip upon Lava, but hasn't yet sent her looking for Dusk. Their team is being spread around on several different missions, having come into their own as operators. Still no mention of Beagle though, so that plot point is still a mystery. A lot of different groups talking about how Rhodes Island is their home. Surely this is not some form of foreshadowing. Things aren't all well wishes though. Warfarin is busy dealing with patients in Rhodes Island's care. Most of them are being transported to temporary facilities during the upgrade works, and only a few serious cases remain under her watchful eye. Chloe is one such case, a Victorian infected during the war. She is in late stages of infection, and even smiling causes her wounds to bleed. Most would be dead by this point, but Originium is keeping her alive, even as her organs crystallize. But now is not the time to worry about strange developments in Rock Cancer. Closure got new drip, once again updating our fashion for a new story arc, all just to show us what we will never have. At least one playable character is present though, Friston of Lone Trail fame. In case you haven't read it, even if you have I suppose you could forget, Friston is another survivor of the Doctor's race. This predecessor willingly became a machine to watch over his people as a preserver. He would aid Kristen in her quest to shatter the Star Pod, and his consciousness would find its way to Rhodes Island thanks to a certain snake. Now though, he is a robot in the process of arguing with Closure over upgrade works. Closure restricts Friston's access to PRTS so that she may discuss sensitive information with him, as he is one of the only people who would know what the consequences of disconnecting PRTS is from Rhodes Island. Following this little discussion, Closure, Amia, the Doctor, and Calcit meet to discuss their growing concerns with PRTS's operating errors. Closure has developed an alternative system called Zoot. Incredible name, Closure. They are running out of time and a seamless transfer is not yet possible. As such, the ship is operating on a skeleton crew. On paper it's due to renovation works, but in reality it's to protect operators. As PRTS is spiraling out of control, Rhodes Island is simplifying the ship, with many of their allies including Rhine Labs, Ija, and Londinium taking care of critical systems. Ija will be handling most of it due to them being vastly more familiar with the technology. Finally, the elephant in the CG you have been looking at for the last however long this has been on screen. The Abyss, an area unrecorded by PRTS. It is past the location where the Doctor awoke during the events of Babel. Calcit and the Doctor will travel to the area to inspect it, while Amia and Closure will clear the surrounding area. Standing at the edge of the Abyss, the Doctor recalls what they have remembered of their mission, the saviour of this land, the destroyer of this land. Priestess is here, within the Abyss. Calcit hypothesizes that she awoke 3 years ago, and was forced back to sleep by Theresis. It's because he's the GOAT. Both the Doctor and Calcit know confronting the Abyss directly is the only option. They just need to discover the solution to this problem. Hilda too seeks answers to her questions. She is delving into knowledge beyond Annie on Terra. She is aboard what turns out to be Rhodes Island, at least Rhodes Island as it once appeared. Ray Distorter has brought her before a universal translator. This device gives her the gift of understanding the scene she saw before through one simple word: death, leaving the young girl to question how gods can die. Hilda discusses the concept of death with Ray Distorter. Someone saved her from death's grasp and she wishes to meet her savior. Something outside the porthole of the ship catches her eye, and that something sees her and decides to come for a little chat. Back on the modern Rhodes Island, things are slipping slightly. The elite operators work to maintain an isolation zone around Rhodes Island, but PRTS isn't making things easy by giving out false information reports to operators and seemingly feeding information to their attackers. The Doctor predicted this may be an issue and prepared accordingly. Successfully repelling the attackers allows Amia, Calcit, and the Doctor some room to strategize. Amia, determined to take a more aggressive approach, decides to use the power of Civ Light Eterna to help guide the way forward. The Doctor agrees to accompany her into the Crown, but Calcit disapproves of the move. Ultimately, the pair choose to go ahead with Amia's plan. Following this meeting, Calcit has a heart-to-heart with Monster. She decides to place her fate in Hope, in Amia and the Doctor. Throughout history, she has never been able to overcome her limits, but those two have, time and time again. Just like Theresa, she is sure Amiya will be able to turn the page on Terra's history, and with the Doctor by her side, Calcid is certain they will succeed. Just in case though, she entrusts information to Monster. Should the worst come to pass, Monster will carry that gift on. Amiya syncs her mind with the Doctor's, getting a sneak peek at a certain woman before delving into the Black Crown. Within, Theresa, or at least the memory of her, appears before them, a record left behind to aid Amiya in her search. Amiya will have to dive into the depths of the Crown, past any information known to Terra, to grasp the truth Calcid seeks, the civilization's singularity, a library left behind by the predecessors, the corridor they find themselves in, representing the limits of Terra, a safeguard from information that would break the mind. Unsure of how to overcome the barrier in front of her, the Doctor suggests that Amiya build a bridge to the singularity. The memory of Theresa warns them that should information overcome them, only death awaits. Speaking of death, Hoda finds herself looking upon one very familiar with the concept. This mysterious elf, the Presence. It claims to have destroyed a race that once spoke a language similar to Hoda's, so it communicates easily. Originally, I thought this was the species that drove the predecessors to extinction, but no. This is another victim of that power, the last of its kind. Once they consumed stars, now they face extinction. Always a bigger fish. Hoda finds it impossible that one can simply accept the death of everyone they know and love. The Presence simply states that death is the absolute equality of the universe, sharing its knowledge so that Hoda can reach that equality. The girl slowly comes to accept that even God can die. The Presence is a nihilist that sees no inherent value in life, no greater meaning to the suffering. No wonder it hangs around Priestess. Unable to answer Hoda's questions, it directs her to that very woman. Amiya and the Doctor continue along the bridge, the shadow of Priestess hanging above them. With the memory of Theresa serving as an anchor, the pair dive deeper and deeper. Information threatens to overwhelm Amiya, the death of a planet before her eyes, but the Doctor pulls her back from the brink. Together the two push forward towards the name hidden from Amiya, Priestess. The two find themselves looking on a familiar sight. Oracle, what the Doctor was once known as, and Priestess. The two discuss a language to describe God, a language to describe the universe, Originium. Finally, the two approach the singularity, the Doctor processing the information for Amiya so that she may build their pact. Aboard the original Rhodes Island, the two witness Oracle discussing things with Ama-10. Oracle gives Ama-10 the ability to protect itself from orders that would harm it. Around the pair floats formulas, the origin point of Originium. As if things weren't rushed enough, the bridge begins to collapse. Quickly remembering the formulas in front of them, Oracle turns to face them. From across time, they wish the pair good luck, just as the bridge collapses and they are forced out. POTS is accessed by an administrator and begins a self-repair program. Unaware of this development, the Doctor and Amiya awaken from their quest. Calcid has been caring for them since they entered the Crown. She demands both of them to perform a cognition test to make sure they are alright. This allows her an excuse to test the Doctor's conviction. She asks a few pointed questions to ascertain their loyalty and commitment to Rhodes Island. The Doctor does end up reversing the situation on her though, and is able to ask her if she trusts them. Which of course she does. Why wouldn't she? The Doctor is super trustworthy. Now, anyway. Unfortunately, within the heart of Rhodes Island, Originium stirs. A reunion member, or the memory of one at least, appears. Priestess stretching her body in reality as she once more awakens. The formulas retrieved by Amiya and the Doctor are put together by Calcid. Slumber Bridge, a precursor to the Originium digitization. Once more aboard the original Rhodes Island, it is time for Priestess to reach out to a bunny in need. She's left her alone long enough. Hoda hears the voice of her saviour and her hand reaches out to her again. She sees God, which is an insane description to give someone, and a quote from the game. More from them later, as we have a more important matter to discuss. Do robots dream? Not to get philosophical on you, but probably not. Well, that is the question troubling Friston, as he has just had one. Immediately he seeks out Closure, who is busy disconnecting systems from POTS, and can't spare any time for him. Friston stops her though, and asks her one simple question. What is his power source? Originium. Closure disconnecting from POTS isn't enough to stop what is coming. Papukar finds herself walking through the decks of Rhodes Island alone. Looking out the port reveals a sight we've seen before, Hoda and the Presence. Exiting the landship, Papacut turns around to find the exit gone. Rhodes Island is being shifted around by Originium. The machines, powered by Originium, become hostile and attack. The Originium enemies I mentioned earlier also finally appear and begin attacking the Doctor and Amiya, quickly being dispatched by Amiya, only for the pair to realize the scope of the attack. Crystals appear everywhere, and with only the elite operators being aboard Rhodes Island, resistance is spread pretty thin. Calcet recognizes Priestess's handiwork and prepares her counterattack, the sarcophagus. With Monster buying her time, she enters the last hope for Rhodes Island, using its power to restore communication and organize a response to the crisis. Warfarin meanwhile fights to defend Chloe. With the Originium enemies stopping their attacks before they hit the patient, Chloe gets an idea. She offers her services to Warfarin so that she may form a solution to the threat. The Doctor orders all elite operators to converge on Calcet, but in the commotion, fails to see a young girl grasping the hand of a saviour, just like they are holding Amiya's hand right now. Within the void stands a great pillar, a monument to civilization, a monument to those the universe consumed. Before this grave, Priestess presents herself to Herda, rejecting the title of God as she is simply a linguist. She speaks the language of the universe. She, by chance, happened to see Herda at the moment she was forced back to sleep. She did not save her from death. Originium still claimed her. She simply stored her consciousness in Originium in a more active state. In the eyes of Priestess, life on Terra was a mistake, but being born from Originium is in a manner a blessing. Priestess shows Herda the light of the predecessor civilization, and the light that ended it. Herda wishes to stay for a while, to learn, which Priestess allows. She is a date with destiny after all. Within the sarcophagus, Calcet reflects on the hope offered by this relic. However, the sarcophagus rejects her. It refuses to allow her to access POTS, at least under the ID of Ama-10. Oracle appears before her. Priestess set up POTS to refuse Ama-10, but Oracle offers a solution to Calcet. At the cost of separation from Monster, she may access POTS. A small price to pay in the eyes of Calcet. She comes face to disembodied voice / computer terminal using Oracle's administrator ID. Priestess is surprised that such a thing was possible. Although not sure she can overthrow Priestess, she is confident in her allies as Rhodes Island makes their way towards her. Through understanding Chloe's infection, Warfarin discovers a way of defeating the Originium enemies, allowing the elite operators to begin suppressing them effectively at the cost of her dear patient's life. On their way towards Calcet, Blaze and Rosemontes find themselves in a sticky situation. Justice Knight, Ptolemy X, Castle 3, and Lancet 2 are obstructing their path. Overtaken by the will of Originium, they attack their allies. Friston gets his moment of shine though. Using his synchronization module, he connects to the minds of the robots, overwriting their base code to free them from POTS's control. With the idea of overwriting the base code in her mind, Closure activates Zoot to aid Calcet in opposing POTS. With the time it buys, the elite operators reach Calcet. Emerging from the sarcophagus severely weakened, Calcet opens the path to the Abyss, ordering the operators to begin their most difficult mission yet, striking down POTS and Priestess. Rhodes Island advances into the Abyss. Unfortunately, the Abyss looked back. The Doctor, Amiya, and Calcet find themselves atop Rhodes Island, black rain made of Originium falling around them. Before them sprouts a mass of Originium, a white figure standing atop it, the descent of a god. Priestess stands before them. Amiya possesses no understanding of the danger in front of her, but moves to protect the Doctor anyway. Deciding the day of their reunion shouldn't be so cloudy, Priestess clears the sky in an instant. She possesses full control over Originium. She asks the Doctor to once again return to her side, but they refuse. The Doctor is stronger than many of you. Manny would fold instantly. The Doctor refuses to allow Originium to destroy Terra. Priestess is disappointed in Ama-10 and the Doctor and will make them pay for their betrayal. At the heart of Rhodes Island, the elite operators confront POTS, its defense system roaring to life, ready to squash Rhodes Island. Having been forbidden from speaking her mind till now, Calcet confesses to the Doctor the truth of their past, how they once created Originium. Oracle hoped to leave Originium as a gift for the future, to guide those who came after. Originium brought untold suffering to Terra, but it also brought life. The Doctor never gave up on curing Oripity despite the grand vision imposed on them by Priestess, and thanks to Teresa, they are now free from the chains of that past. Calcit orders Monster to kill Priestess, the enemy of all life on Terra. Unfortunately, with full control over Originium, this proves too much for Monster alone. Priestess recognizes that Calcit has set a trap for her. After awakening, she is being trapped in this new body. Should she be killed, she will be unable to return to Originium. Amia, hearing this, joins in on the assault against Priestess. The elite operators force themselves closer and closer to POTS, its processing speed slowing further and further due to the battle on two fronts. Monster and Amia launch a final attack on Priestess, shattering her body into pieces. Priestess, however, is finished playing with her food, an Originium body double. She has no intention on debating the matter with Calcit. She is a variable that must be removed, so she raises her hand, unleashing the might of Originium upon Calcit. Starting at her shoulder, Originium rapidly spreads over her body before shattering. In the aftermath, Monster reverts into a cocoon to revive. Priestess recognizes no significance in the name Calcit, only Amma 10, her failed experiment. Now alone and enraged, Amia continues her attack, but is overwhelmed quickly. The Doctor remembers the formulas and has Amia linked to their mind. The strength found in them allows Amia to push back the tide of Originium that seeks to consume them. Amia can only hope to hold back Priestess long enough for Rhodes Island to evacuate. The elite operators confront and now weaponize POTS. No longer purely relying on Originium, a weaponized mimic towers above the operators. The elite operators repeatedly strike it down, only for it to revive, while Mechanist downloads the POTS core data for closure. Amia meanwhile attempts to take the offensive against Priestess and take revenge for Calcit, but she took her chance too late. Originium finally overcomes her, and once more attempts to consume the Doctor and Amia, but Ascalon arrives just in time to save them. Amia rescues Monster's cocoon as they abandon the landship. 31 serious injuries, 173 minor injuries, and 2 casualties. That is the tally of Priestess's assault on Rhodes Island. The landship is consumed by Originium. Terra's greatest threat now roams the halls alone. All that is left to do is prepare for the next battle. Rhodes Island must rebuild. Luckily, they know royalty, and Vina informs them that a replacement landship is ready for them in Victoria. A month following the attack, the new landship is finally taking shape. Closure has taken on the role of Calcit since the incident. She's in charge of organizing all the local offices scattered around Terra and re-establishing a chain of command. The Doctor and Amia observe the cocoon left behind by Monster in the forest around the new landship, praying that Priestess has not corrupted what remains of Calcit. What emerges, however, is not Calcit, but does resemble her. For the first time in their long lives, only one awakens. She calls out for Calcit, but receives no answer. Reborn as an anime girl. Truly, the evil of Priestess knows no bounds. Monster has returned to Rhodes Island. Back aboard the landship, Monster gives Rhodes Island the final gift of Calcit, a message from beyond the grave, and information. Calcit tells the Doctor to gather all of Rhodes Island. All of Terra will be required to defeat Priestess. With the data left behind though, Monster concludes there is a way to bring Calcit back. It will require, however, a great power source, a sarcophagus. With only one they know of, their next destination is clear. Chronobog, Ursus, where it all began. Hilda finally makes her choice. She will return to Terra. Priestess, who seemed so cruel in the eyes of Rhodes Island, almost seems reluctant to return her to the pain of reality, but respects her wish. Hilda awakens back on Terra, back in Rim Billiton. Hilda hears a cry for help, an infected in need. In the shadow of a crystallized Rhodes Island, Hilda offers comfort to a dying infected, only for a light to emit from the crystals covering his body. The crystals turn from black to yellow, and the symbol of Priestess appears on his forehead. With Ascalon watching on from the distance, a miracle has occurred. An infected has survived their infection. Priestess 2 prepares to accelerate the propagation of Originium, but with PRTS damaged, she will have to find an alternative way of doing this, which suspiciously leads us to a scene between a Sarkaz and a Sancta. Oren, that bum, prepares to commit a hate crime, only to seemingly become a fallen Sancta despite pointing his gun at a Sarkaz. Surely, no event is coming soon that focuses on the Sancta that will build on this moment. And that, my friends, is Dissociative Recombination. It is very, very good. Some might even call it peak. I would be one of those people. Is it my favorite story chapter? No. Chapter 14 and 8 still have it beat in my opinion, but it certainly is top 5, and a fantastic start to Act 3. The characters in Chapter 15 are pretty great all things considered. Hilda is a very interesting new character, one that is Priestess's look into Terra. Becoming something of a herald of Priestess at the end of the chapter is really interesting and will certainly be pivotal to the story of Act 3. Amiya and the Doctor, while fantastic as usual, I don't think you should be surprised by that statement. Amiya is my precious daughter and is growing into a mighty and capable leader. The Doctor continues to move past many of the trappings of a self-insert character, although saying that the story still does treat them as if they are you, the reader. Rhodes Island and Priestess pulling constantly at them is very good stuff, even though it seems pretty clear that the Doctor shall be firmly standing in opposition to Priestess. And speaking of her, Priestess, as I said in the intro to this video, is the ultimate rejection of Rhodes Island's ideals. A nihilist who abandoned all hope in life, but still clung to the Doctor as a friend, as a colleague, maybe even as a lover. It's good stuff, really driving home the idea that the Doctor represents hope in the world of Arknights, which I suppose is fair because it is the player character and the story won't happen if you don't read. Although I exist to do that for you, so I guess I am the Doctor. In all seriousness though, Priestess has been built up for years, and she definitely delivers in spades with her performance this chapter, and her biggest impact is erasing our beloved green cat. Calcit probably won't stay dead for long, but the impact of her death scene is crazy. Definitely going to get undone, so I probably wouldn't have had Monster mention it in this chapter while her dust is still warm, but hey, you do gotta drop story hooks. Personally, even if she doesn't come back, or what they bring back is someone else, I will be very happy with how Calcit's story ended. She was always chained by the past, even more so than the Doctor, finally was able to step past her limits, and even if it cost her her life, she has given Terra hope in the form of Monster and what she can bring. And it would not be me if I didn't glaze my glorious king at the end of the video. The greatest aura former of today, the greatest aura former in history even, Theresis, my goat. Not only did he stand on business, he put Priestess in her place, and saved Terra for years, and saved the Sarkaz in general. He is truly 100% goated, all sauce, no L's, only W's. Not only did he do nothing wrong, he did everything correctly. He secured Sarkaz's freedom, he got his sister back and had her save the souls of the Sarkaz. He even, in a way, made sure that the Doctor lost their memories so that they may save Terra now. Truly, the GOAT! The GOAT! I'm not going to apologize for my mic fucking peeking the shit out there. I had to glaze my glorious king one last time. I am definitely sad to see him go, but potentially that other character that could come back in the future, it might be him. At the end of his death scene, there was a little bit of, stuff there with light. Potentially, Originium has embraced Theresis, and he's going to be coming back bigger and better than ever. Regardless of whether Theresis ever becomes playable, it's certainly a good way to end his story. He's not like Patriot, he's not like Teresa, he's not like Tallulah. He is a man who rebelled against fate, even if that placed him in opposition to his sister. And in the end, what he did for his people, overthrowing a cruel god so that they may be free from those who would control them. Fly high, King. We will miss you. And with that being said, I'm going to end it here. Let me know your thoughts on the event down below. And for the first time ever, I'm actually going to ask for a little bit of comment engagement. Please comment Team Priestess or Team Teresa down below. I gotta know which side of the Civil War you stand on. Me, however, I'm gonna tell you that I'm taking the third option, the husband route, Team Theresis! Shout out to the wonderful members of the factory. You are the innocent green cat that I hit with hollow purple. Y'all be good people, and I will talk to you in the next one. So like a joke image of idle Theresis has been going around on Twitter. I'm not saying I would complain if it was made playable, but you know, Hippogriff, give me playable idle Theresis and my life is yours!